Yo, what's poppin'? It's Tommathan. We are here for the fourth Defiant podcast. To not mess up the other recording, this is not the actual fifth one. Don't worry. We're back after a Countdown Cup, and we will be back after 2 matches in the playoffs, for sure. The jokes aren't the same now, because I already said them, so you're not going to...
The jokes aren't the same, but the doomium remains.
Yes,
so
that's
I failed recording before this. However, goddamn, we're still down.
Still not feeling great.
Stocks are low, energy's low. The smiles are on our faces, but only because
they have to be.
We're masochists also.
Okay. So, first up, before we go, let's talk about the Countdown Cup for the first time. So, 2-4 record, not great. Quick recap: lost to Atlanta, lost to New York, beat Shock, Mickey Mouse win. Lost to who's the other guy? Vancouver. Lost to Florida. Beat Houston, another Mickey Mouse win. We have no real wins. 0.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Oh god. Yeah, not the optimal Countdown Cup for sure. Coming off the back of a successful, what most people would say, a overachieving Summer Showdown, with like crazy fan energy. It just ended up being a disappointing stage. I don't know. They just didn't play. They didn't even seem happy. They just came off the best tournament that the franchise has ever had. Some of these players, it's the first time they've even played in a playoffs bracket to that degree. And it's just they're just frowning. They're just sitting in Toronto, sad. It's like if there's no crowd, they just don't care
at all. They just weren't there. They weren't fully there. But they did show up to make it to play-in, to make it through play-ins after beating Washington, losing to Florida again, and then rolling Boston. They just rolled that, massive gap, probably gap between Florida, Toronto, and then a gap between Toronto, Washington, Boston. I don't know why. I don't know how that happened. It just felt like they were back on top. They were setting the tempo right, the Summer Showdown all over again, but not as good because I don't know. Papa Zarya finale not as good as the Summer Showdown version, I guess.
Yeah, we came into that play-ins, and I'll be honest, I was not excited to watch my boys in black and red just get owned. I was really I wasn't high on Washington because I never am. I think they're always going to disappoint you if you give them any credit. But Washington looked pretty good. They looked like they could definitely pop off and beat us. I thought Boston as well, with Punk and Crimzo permanently in the roster, and Seeker giving me some inspiration from some ranked games I've had him in.
Okay.
I honestly thought those guys had a poking chance at actually upsetting us. But no, it seemed we decided, oh, it's time to not mess around. We're going to actually secure our place. Because the most perfectly mid thing to do to wrap off a mid-season is to just get to the playoffs, but then just bomb out in the playoffs.
Yeah. 100%.
Yep.
And then just going through the Countdown Cup for the thought process of Toronto Defiant, their journey through to mediocrity. You start off, you're playing Hisu Sombra. Doesn't work because you can't play Hisu and you can't carry on Sombra. So he goes over to Sojourn. You play, although one match against Florida or something, and then other than that, you have Finale in playing Tracer, also playing Genji and just not swapping ever. So I don't know. Finale's the guy now. Who cares? And that's the biggest. That's all that is notable about that absolutely tragic run. They were not fun to watch during that time at all. It was just not good.
Yeah, definitely a surprising swap with Finale playing the Genji, which I don't know too much about the background of Finale before this season, but I don't know. Although is the Genji guy on this team, you look at those three, you're that guy, that's the guy who plays Genji, one. And then they're but Finale, it's your turn. I'm so confused as to how they came to the conclusion. Although it just came off of the Summer Showdown, and in those playoffs, he was electric. He was really good.
Yeah.
So it's how the hell this should maybe even be an easier meta as the Genji, because you're literally just getting a bubble and going in, and you have 2.5 seconds of invulnerability to play with. So I'm just very confused as to how how it just like changed, and Finale ended up being our Genji player. And I'm not saying Finale was that bad. Like I think he was serviceable, but I think for the caliber of play you're expecting from a team with this budget, it probably should be better.
Yeah, which kind of goes into, was this a successful regular season? All things considered, 12, 12, and -1, the most mid team in the league. Successful or no?
I would say looking like say you're the team, if you're looking in isolation of this year, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking in isolation, you know that this team put a lot of money into the game, right? They're one of the highest like paying teams this year in terms of the budget that they put into their team. They have all these crazy big backings for sponsorships, right? They were able to snag away key players in the offseason, right? They were able to maintain Hisu. They were able to snag Twilight. They were able to grab Muse, who just had a really good year with the Gladiators. And then they also grabbed the $500,000 man Churong, right? Who was on like every team's radar, and every team seemed to want him in terms of what we were hearing from reports at the beginning of the season. And so with all these star players coming in, you're like, damn, we have a fighting chance, right? Like I know us looking back at our power rankings that we just did, like we looked at our power rankings this week from before the season, and it's like, god damn, we had them high, right? Because the caliber of play should have been high. Looking at the pieces, looking at the budget, you're like, damn, this is our year. We get to smile and finally be a happy team, right? And then we didn't. So I'd say in isolation of this year, this is definitely a failure for the org.
Yeah.
Or at least not a success, right? But when you look at it in relativity to the other years that we've had, this is probably Defiant's best year, right? We had a successful homestand, right? Where in the playoffs we were able to make it to third in our regional tournament, which we hosted, which that's a huge success for the org itself. And then a regular season of 12-12, Defiant has not had a like they've always had losing records every season, right? They've not had a positive win rate over a season. So this is definitely better. We've improved year over year, but like it's not perfect, right? You definitely want more.
This year does not inspire. It shouldn't like persuade them to spend more money. Like I feel like it doesn't say, oh, we need more money. Maybe it does because they're like, oh, we had some holes here. Whoever's like running it can say, oh, give them more money. They need a little bit more money or something like that.
Yeah.
Smooth some money. But actually, last season they were 9-7 in the regular season. So that's technically positive. But this year was better with the tournaments overall. Wait, last year we got no points. Yeah, according to Wikipedia, 9-7 with a 0 map differential. For 11th in the league.
Am I crazy? Oh, I don't remember us being positive last year. Okay.
I mean, well, we played tournaments though this year, and we didn't have any last year, so it feels better.
Oh, well, I'm a fake fan.
Well, I mean, this year was probably more successful overall though.
I would say so. I don't think last year, even though our record was 9-7, there was no point last year where people were like, yeah, this Defiant team, these guys could punch. These guys have the pieces. That's definitely not it. And to your point about it's like, okay, well, are we inspiring our people to pay more money next year? I think when you look at the team's success, like London, right? You look at I think every org is going to be looking at like what London did this year, what Florida was also able to achieve this year, and even some other teams that have like hold back their budget. You even look at Justice, and you're like, Justice had like a pretty sizable roster coming in. No, this is the example of like they had a big roster coming in, and as soon as they cut it down, right, they were able to narrow down and focus. And these players, when they had set roles and were always playing, they were able to succeed more, right? So you look at kind of Justice isn't the main example, but obviously it's London and Florida, like I brought up. It's like you look at those rosters and you're like, damn. You really need to invest in coaching. And I mean, we saw this year, we were plagued with some coaching issues, right? We had KDG, who stocks weren't high for KDG going into this year, but they weren't like, man, this guy's going to destroy a team.
They weren't Chengdu.
At the beginning of the year, the stock, like, or after the first stage, you're like, damn, okay, KDG just blew up we just had the great roster and he just blew it up. So it'll be interesting to see if Moby Dick stays in, or if they try and hire on and snag some other people, because I think that's where your bag needs to go, right? is
100%.
to coaching staff. Like 100%, Toronto just needs coaching staff and one designated smiler.
Yeah, 100%. I think keeping the roster small, keeping the roster small, they look better than they did last season.
Yep.
A lot of these teams, the smaller roster does better. Seoul Dynasty, smaller roster.
Yeah, you just cut the fat.
Yeah, because there's no need. And then you can spend more money on your main guys because you're not paying $50K at least for some other guy to ride the bench. So hopefully we'll see how they go. I'd like to see them invest money, of course. But like
they could probably, based on the success of Summer Showdown, right? In terms of like the event itself, I think they can definitely justify to their sponsors and to any of their financial backers or just overactive media in general.
Yeah.
I think they could probably argue we can invest the same amount, right? At least, right? And even still, that's way more buying power than like the 3/4 of the league, right?
No matter what.
I don't think we're hurting, and even if we were to cut budget, we're still going to be out budgeting like London, Paris, Vancouver. Teams. Like most teams, we're going to be out budgeting them. So, and maybe we're a more attractive team coming out of this year.
True.
I think maybe to other players, because there's probably a perception of players. It's like, man, do I really want to like go to Vancouver? Do I really want to go to like a team like Boston? I think players like to wait for like a better team, right? That instills confidence. They're like, I go to this roster, it's going to be great. Right? And maybe the Summer Showdown, seeing, oh, goddamn, the Canadian fans were sick. Like Toronto fans, that was like a really cool event. They were cheering like crazy. Maybe I want to play on that team, right? And this team also didn't look horrible this year, right? They had like a lot of glimmers of hope, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's successful in that regard.
Real. Yeah, I think you're right. And anyway, moving on to the playoffs, which is the big part. We spent 12 minutes not on it. So anyway, playoff patch. We know the patch notes: Sombra nerf, Genji nerf, Zarya nerf, Diva nerf. The rumor on the street is Winston's very good. Genji's not as good, but maybe he's still okay. But also Tracer, Echo, Reaper, Sojourn are some other DPS that are thrown out there. And then Kiriko, Lucio are the main two. So what do you think this means for the Toronto Defiant? Is Muse going to play? Are we going to force Hoppa over to Diva? Because I think Diva should see some playtime. I don't know if Defiant's going to be one of the teams that does it.
I'm in terms of like meta predictions, I think all of those things you said are pretty real, except for I tend to disagree with the Diva playtime.
Okay.
I think that as someone who's like been playing a lot of Kiriko in ranked right now, I know it's ranked and that's anecdotal, but Monkey like is impossible to play against in Kiriko. It feels like, or at least Monkey gives her like a very hard time because she cannot break bubble, right? Like her bubble breaking ability is non-existent. With 40 like slow projectile at that bubble, you're just not breaking the bubble to be able to get your healing to go through, right? And you can't throw your nade through. You can TP in, but it's like, that's not really what you want to do, probably, is TP into an enemy Winston bubble, right? It's like, how are you getting out then? So I think that we'll probably see a lot more Monkey because of just Kiriko's power level.
Fair.
But in terms of how it will affect Defiant, I guess, I think we'll see Muse. I hope to see Muse, and I hope to see him in good form as well, because that guy was crazy at the end of last year.
He was good at the beginning of this season too. Kickoff Clash, he looked a little good until we blew that up and played Hoppa instead. So that's KDG, I guess. We haven't seen Muse since KDG, have we?
No, we saw him right after.
We saw him a little bit, yeah. I remember the Doomfist. Yeah, a little bit of Doomfist gameplay.
Yeah, he came in and played a really good Doom for like 2 games and then fell off a cliff again. Hoppa was back in.
My concern for the Defiant is, except for the Summer Showdown, I think, we've been a little slow to start in metas. And even in the Summer Showdown, we started with a 3-2 against Vancouver, who were a good team, but we outgrew them very quickly, right?
Yeah.
We're a team that gets better as it goes on most of the time, or sometimes don't get better at all in the case of the Countdown Cup, I guess. But even in the Midseason Madness, we kind of gained a little bit of footing towards the end there, right? Am I coping when I say that?
No, I think that's generally true.
Okay.
I think what you said is pretty real.
So I'm concerned that with the limited playtime, apparently there was like a scrim code before these. They just got put on OPR yesterday, the changes. but apparently there was a scrim code, so they maybe got a little bit more time. But regardless, they only have like a week and a bit probably to actually play test these changes. So I'm concerned that they might, and they only have 2 games to not suck, and then they're done, and they're already not good at their they already are not as good as some of the other teams at their peak potential right now.
I really think the biggest the 2 concerns I think are, does Twilight pick up Kariko and is like really good at it? Like, is Twilight that guy on Kariko? Is he going to be the difference maker? Is this guy going to be sniping backlines from across the map, right? Or I guess, or is he going to be falling onto Ana, right? I feel like if he's not as comfortable, just like on the BAP, he's going to be swapping over to the Ana, just like in the Countdown Cup, right? Since there's Monkey, it's very viable. It's very plausible that you could see like some teams play Ana on certain points, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think that the other thing is just art. Is Muse still that guy? I don't know.
Is he that guy? Has he been training in the forest, or has he been sitting on the couch?
Yeah, really.
I don't know.
Like, do the pieces fall together quickly? Because I think that's, or sorry, I guess it's like, do we get the proper read as well? Because if it's only a week, we've seen Toronto this season even come out on the wrong read multiple times, right at the start, and it's like we just cannot afford. In a double elimination bracket, you just can't afford to come out on the wrong read off the gate, because playing from the losers bracket, I mean, we did it in the Summer Showdown, but it's just different, right? The teams that are here, it's an international tournament. You can't afford to have a slow read off rip. So I think best thing that we can do in scrims is probably just be like, whoever we see is successful, play what they're playing probably, right? Don't try and like turbo mind game this where it's like, oh man, Hisu could still do it on Sombra even after the nerfs. Like, I don't want to see any of that stuff, right? I want to see us just commit to whatever the strat is that's working the most, I think.
Yeah. Just run it. Just run it. Simply put, just run it.
Just run the best comp.
Okay. But now, who is Defiant's most important piece going to the playoffs? My thoughts to start on this. It's actually not Hisu. I think it is Finale. I don't know if that's stealing your. I don't know what you were going to say about it, because this was your one. But anyway, I think it's Finale.
No, you go ahead. Okay. I'm interested to know why it's Finale.
Because he needs to show up. Like, or Aldo, whoever it is, needs to show up to actually have a chance. It doesn't matter if Hisu's at peak. It doesn't matter if the backline's at peak, or even Muse. I feel like you need everyone to do it, and the biggest question mark for me is that slot. I think it's a much larger question mark than Muse. We know he has a good one. We've seen it. We've seen it last year. We've seen it this year. I don't know if Finale has that level of Tracer, because we're talking about the best of the best now. He's going up against, like, the GOATs.
Prophet's going to be there.
Prophet's there.
Prophet is going to be there.
Proper. Or Striker. Either of them. Who cares? One of them's going to be there.
Yeah.
And he needs to actually be good. Like, we saw Aldo stepped up in the Summer Showdown. If he doesn't do that, we don't finish there. We lose to Florida. 100%.
Yeah. 100%.
So that's why I think maybe not the best piece, but the most important piece for me is that whoever's playing flex DPS.
Yeah, I think for me it comes down to, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, so it's not as exciting, but I think it's definitely got to be like, it's either Twilight or Muse in terms of who I think needs to really step it up, because like when a character is like brand new like Kariko and you don't have that much time, the difference that like someone who picks it up super fast can be in a meta, like you saw it with Sigma in 2019 playoffs, right? Choi picked up that character in like seconds. Janu picked it up in seconds, right? And there were teams that fell to the wayside because they just didn't have as potent of Sigmas, right? Okay. You saw it in metas with when Baptiste came in. Shock was picking up the Baptiste and implementing it in a way that no one else was in Ghost, and they were seeing so much success off the back of it. I think that when you can exploit and kind of be that difference maker on a new character, that's like super good. But then on the other side, the reason I say Muse is just because you're going to need a good Monkey in this meta. From all signs point to you need a good Winston, and a good Winston can be an incredible difference maker. Kariko does have a lot of like single target healing, but like you have to be aware of like when you can go in, when you can't go in, right? You have to be aware that you need to have that awareness, and you also have to set the tempo right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see Muse set the tempo really well. I don't want to see this like passive Defiant of the past where, we just sit around
Rolled
and wait for
over.
the other team to make a mistake. It's like, no, we need to be those guys. We need to be in there. I think Hisu, like most people will point to Hisu, and I think Hisu's even still a good shout because Sojourn's just that character. If you have a really good game on Sojourn, it doesn't matter what the rest of your team is doing, right? It's that solo carry guy. But I think what the season has proved is Hisu's there consistently, so that's not really a worry. I think I like your shout with Finale or Aldo, whoever ends up playing, because it's not enough in the grand finals playoffs to have one guy, like one of your damage players, be elite. You need both of them to show up, at least be like great, to make it deep. You can't have just average.
Yeah, Shotgun proved that in Summer Showdown a little bit.
Yeah,
on Kilo, but that's why they got Striker. Like they recognized it. They literally recognized it. So, and another thing that I was gonna mention but I forgot and then I remembered again is watching Charong play Kiriko in ranked. He's a beast. He's doing as much damage as DPS. What if Charong, Kiriko, Twilight, something else? What if they come out and they say fuck that Lucio? No, you don't. No vision. No vision.
No, because I don't. Unless. I could.
What if he's a beast? What if he is the best Kiriko?
It is
touch the world.
Now this is just like a really dumb theory, probably because I think Kiriko needs Lucio to move around effectively because that's just the way the character works, right? And just the tempo that you can set with Lucio is much better. But the only other character I could see pairing with Kiriko well is like Bap, where you could have some crazy damage output from your backline, right, and just melt people as they come in. But I don't think that's probably not going to happen. But
it'd be cool.
Yeah, it's good to know that Charong can do it. Maybe
this is also one ranked game and a little bit of time I watched them on stream, so it's not a lot. But it's legit Overwatch 2 ranked, so it doesn't matter. But I think the concept's interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. It's definitely going to be Twilight though, because you cannot have Twilight on Lucio when you know Charong's there.
Well,
Charong could have a better Kiriko.
What if Twilight has a crazy Lucio?
I mean, he has a crazy Brig, so
Brig Kiriko. Consider it. Okay, but anyway.
No, please don't, Toronto. Don't consider that option. Consider Brig. Just don't consider Brig.
So how deep do we need to find to go right now in these playoffs for them to be a good playoffs? Do you think it doesn't matter? Do you think coming into it they look like they're limping in anyway? So you think if they get 0-2 it doesn't matter? Or do you think they actually need to beat like Houston or to beat someone because they're playing Houston first? How deep do you want them to go?
I would like to see. Wait, how many teams are there again?
12.
12?
Yep.
I'd like to see top 8.
So you'd like them to not go home first?
Yeah, I'd like to see top 8
or one game.
Does one game get you into top 8?
Well, if you lose to Houston, then you beat whoever, because it goes Houston, and then we play whoever loses between Dallas and whoever they pick. And if you win that game, then you're in top 8.
So one game. I'd like to see us at least go mid, in win rate or positive. I think is any success, right? Any success above that is like great. If we win 2 games but lose 2, I think that's fine. I think that's pretty reasonable in terms of expectations given the budget. Now, do I think that the power level of Defiant right now is at that? No, but in terms of what we know the roster is probably capable of, I'd like to see at least like 2-2 or greater than 2 and 2.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see them beat Houston because I don't think Houston's going to be that good. Maybe looking at
if we don't beat Houston in a monkey meta where Dante is the only tank that they should be fielding, I think that's just bad signs.
Yeah, so I'd like to see them at least win that game, and then anything past that, it's like whatever, because you're not beating any of the guys that got the bye, like at all. And it's like I'd say looking at this quickly, I'd say you could maybe beat Philly, maybe.
I don't have much faith in Philly, to be honest. I don't think Philly.
Well, Bella's will be back.
Bella's is going to be back, but do you really think Aim God Fixa?
I think
like I don't have any. I don't like any of that.
Well, that's kind of hurt his arm though, so he might not be. Maybe yeah, that's why we'd be Philly. Maybe I would pred them to lose to the Spark. I think just because Shy.
Well,
just because Shy. It's close though. It is close.
It's so tough. It's so tough. I hate Spark, but I can't deny that. I think they're definitely a scary dark horse team if this meta is something that their backline is comfortable doing. If they're comfortable in the backline,
surely
put your hands up.
Surely one of their 4 support players has a good carry count. Surely,
but too many cooks in the kitchen might make that difficult. Maybe they spend too much time rotating dudes, right?
True.
Like, and then they're less practiced. So
yeah.
I think that. What? Wait, so our list in terms of teams that Toronto could realistically beat, or should be not should, but could realistically beat, Houston for sure.
Yeah, Houston.
This might be silly, but I kind of think we should beat Florida.
I actually agree.
I think Florida is looking hot right now.
But I think
I think that we should beat them.
Yeah.
We should definitely beat them.
Well, Florida have the same thing that we were talking about earlier, where it's like they take a while to get going, but Florida have that like to the max, like more than anyone else in the league.
Florida is so good deep in tournaments. They're so good at adjusting. Like if they take a loss in a tournament, they're so good at turning around and being like, "Man, we suck. Like we should improve that." And then they do.
Yeah,
it's insane. Whoever is doing their like post game breakdown analysis as a coach is like phenomenal.
Yeah, whoever it is, sign them. Toronto, get on that. We got more money. We have money them.
Yeah, I think we beat Philly. Also, I don't have as much confidence in Philly as you might.
Atlanta, no Winston player.
It's not so hard to say what Atlanta's gonna come out looking like because
it is.
Atlanta is scary. They just have a bunch of shooters, and at all points, like Kai could just take over. UV could be insane on Kiriko, right?
Vigilante could. They have 2 tries there.
I guess Vigilante also could be. I'd like to see UV.
I like UV, but
just because I'm an American Tornado simp. But
I fear it will be Vigilante. I would actually think it is, but
damn.
We'll see.
But we could beat Atlanta, given that Hawk is going to be on Monkey. Probably.
Maybe you can beat Shanghai.
No,
not even gonna buy it.
I don't think there's a single world that we are beating Shanghai. No, I don't think that's possible.
Fleta comes in on the Tracer, doesn't die any at all, but also doesn't build a pulse bomb. Thoughts? We're playing a 4v5. We still lose the 4v5 to Shanghai.
I think that we lose that. Yeah, I think we lose that 4v5. You're telling me Lip doesn't just solo our entire team on Sojourn?
Maybe.
Like, and Izzyaki is probably insane at the flex support. Now, if we see Bebe somehow, then yes, we win. We win. If Bebe or Void are in this match, we win. So we can beat maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We didn't talk about London. London's our kryptonite in tournaments. I think and in the regular season. Yeah. But just on the principle. But I expect our backline to be infinitely better than their backline in this meta. Like infinitely better. That might be strong wording, but Summer Showdown, right? Like during Jotes, they just have to play a very stable backline, London, right? In terms of the Brig Lucio. Whereas I think that the skill expression of Kiriko is like way more in favor of Twilight than it is of Land. Like how much? Yeah. If you're picking up a player or Con, no, but that's the thing. You're really gonna trust? You're gonna trust Con to take you to the grand finals to get you those wins over Twilight? I don't think so, right? So I think that Twilight and Churong are a better shot there. Yeah, no, the skill expression is kind of real. Also, Haughty Winston, although I think I have more faith in Haughty Winston than most people, but I do think that Muse should just diff Haughty on Winston. He should. Right? You'd like to think. You'd really hope so. And then Shaq's finale is probably kind of even. Maybe even finale favorites. Shaq's has not impressed me at all. I think that's finale favored. Yeah. And then really it's just Sparkered. Okay, so we can beat anyone except for Shanghai that didn't get a bye. You think there are 5 teams we can't beat at all? Not possible. So those teams that we can't beat. I don't think we beat Glads.
Glad.
I don't think we
Shock.
beat Seoul. I don't think we beat Shock.
Shock-
Unless Shock fumbles. Unless Shock fumbles, right? Which is quite possible. Quite possible, depending on how
they're playing Mikey
the main
or
tank
Kalush.
situation goes. Also, you've been saying like Striker's a shooter, dude. I don't think Striker's got it.
Striker
anymore.
is.
I do not think he has it anymore. I'd rather Salmon.
He diffs Finale.
I'm sorry. I'd rather Salmon.
You don't think he diffs Finale?
No, I'm a Striker hater.
Okay.
There's bias. There's bias here.
Okay. Well, maybe.
I don't want to see him succeed, so I'm gonna say he's not going to succeed.
Fair. Shock. It depends on how Shock look. I think there is some potential, but it'd be on Shock being bad, not Toronto being good.
I think it's on both. I think.
Oh, you need both to happen.
Bad. I think both. Toronto has to have either be like just good enough,
yeah,
and Shock has to be bad enough.
Okay.
But also, I think it depends. I think we have a higher chance of beating Shock early in the bracket than later in the bracket. Because I kind of trust in the pedigree of coaching of Shock to just outlast and be better late than early.
They'll make better adaptations as they go, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I think Shock has been very consistent this year with placing high in tournaments, right?
Top 4
and making it to the end.
It was top 4 and then top 2 times.
Yeah.
So it's like they're pretty good. They probably have the best tournament placing overall in NA, I think.
I would say that Shock has had the most consistent.
Like if you take them all and like you count not making it as like nothing, it's like negative actually. Shock probably have the best. So you're probably right. So then, well, they can't beat Dallas. 0% chance you beat Dallas.
No, because Dallas is just a better Toronto.
Yeah, they're just Toronto.
Dallas is just always a better Toronto this year.
And then Seoul probably shouldn't have a chance either. I can't see a way we beat Smurf.
I don't see any way that we are beating Smurf in this meta. I think that I think Seoul is probably gonna. Seoul is like my top 2. I think right now in my head.
Seoul is
for this tournament.
Top 3 at worst in any bracket.
Yeah.
I think. I haven't done my bracket yet. I'll probably do that tomorrow.
I haven't either, but just thinking in my head, it's like Seoul cannot be anywhere lower than 2 in my head.
But that's what we thought midseason madness, and they went out first. The first team to exit the midseason madness was Seoul.
Yeah, but they wanted to take some time off, I guess.
Oh, okay.
They trolled. I don't know. Mistakes happen, but not in the grand final.
So to summarize this, the Doomium placement is 0-2 gone, right?
Which I think is possible.
It's possible.
I think it's possible.
The Hopium placement is top 4, I think, or top 5. We reasoned
4.
Well, 4.
How did we just like rhyme off like 5 or 6 teams?
We rhymed off.
We said we cannot beat, and then you're like top 4.
We rhymed off. 4. We rhymed off.
The
Dallas.
math was terrible.
No,
there.
The math. Depends. You don't think it's possible to Shanghai? I see a vision when we beat Shanghai. I see it in my head.
I'll give you it. I'll give you it. I don't want to believe. You know what? I just don't want to believe that Fleta is that washed. I refuse to believe that my goat is.
So the absolute peak. If everything goes right for Toronto, everything goes wrong for all the other teams. Top 5 or top 4.
No, I'm not giving you 4. I don't care. I won't give you 4.
And then the realistic placement, if you were to say, where is Toronto finishing, you think maybe top 8?
1. Oh.
Realistically?
Realistically, 1. 1. Realistically, 8.
8?
Top 8.
You think they beat... Well, even if you beat Houston the first round, you have to win another match. Because if you lose to Houston, you have to win one. If you beat Houston, you have to win another one. How the bracket works. So you'd have to beat Houston and another, which is probably, I don't know, someone in the lower bracket unless Shock sucks. Philly, maybe. Well, it depends, because it depends on whoever Dallas picks. Whoever Dallas picks, we lose to. So who's the best team? Let me run the calculations. No, wait, never mind. That's if we lose to Houston. I don't know who it is. Top 8 sounds right. Okay. That. Lock it in. Lock it in. Top 8 Toronto Defiant. But I think that's it. We've gone on for a solid 34 minutes. Not bad. We will maybe do one after playoffs just to see like what we want about in the off season, how we feel about some moves we can make there, things like that. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, all that. Have yourself a good one. This is Frags, by the way. Didn't show you at the beginning.
They know who I am. I think. I'd hope. I hope.
Okay, goodbye.